Good morning to you. Welcome. It's a Thursday edition of VOP this morning. And yes, breakfast, they say, is served because we have the juiciest conversation for you this morning. I am Moses Humphrey, and over the next 2 hours, we'll be looking at the papers. But before we do that, let's touch on let's let you into a few other things that we will be focusing on this morning. Senate demands answers as National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu and the DSS director have been summoned over Boko Haram funding claims. Well, let's touch on this one and other issues, of course, in the course of the program. Welcome once again.
All right, then, good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Chukwuma Okoro, and when we move away from that, rehabilitation efforts continue for ex-terrorists with hundreds to be released in March. And that's coming from the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa.
All right, then. So there you have it. These are the topics for today, but do well to be part of the conversation. Follow us on social media. Across social media, we are at VOP TV Live. On YouTube, it's Voice of the People TV. Do well to subscribe. Click on the subscription button. Click on the notification bell so you are made aware of every time we come your way. All right, but let's touch on a few other issues before we look at headlines from the dailies now. The Edo State House of Assembly passed a bill amending the Kidnapping Prohibition Amendment Law of 2013, introducing the death penalty for kidnappers and the confiscation of their property. Now, the bill, approved after its second reading, demands the death penalty for kidnappers. The majority leader and other lawmakers expressed their support for the bill and their intention to combat kidnapping. Well, some would say, well, the bill has been sent to the governor for his approval. Well, we're talking here the other day about capital punishment for certain crimes because, you know, like they say, when a crime goes unpunished, something is taken away from, is it the ordinary man or the living being? Chukuma always says that. But
the living being.
The living being. Well, now, death penalty for kidnappers, personally, I think it's a good move. Good move, not just kidnappers. Like we discussed the other day, those that adulterate things that people consume, either drugs or beverages, there should be capital punishment. Maybe, just maybe, it will serve as it will deter people from going into those acts that are harmful to their fellow humans. But where I have a problem with this is, I think they should, do it in such a way that proper investigation will be done. So people don't take advantage of this and, rope people in and accuse them of kidnapping or accuse them of their properties being used for kidnapping, and somebody who is contesting a property with somebody will have their property demolished. There are loopholes that other people can take advantage of to, harm those that they are in contention with. But for the fact that this is being signed into law, I think it's a laudable move. It will deter it might deter those that are going into kidnapping. Just the other day, there was four gentlemen were accosted in an estate in Lagos where they were said to have gone to kidnap an individual, and it's because they've seen this as a money-making venture. From the time of Chukwudubeme Onwamadike Evans, popularly known as Evans, kidnapping has, the rate of kidnapping has increased. Wadume also, those could be seen to be the beginners, so to say. They popularized it when they were arrested and their acts made known. But after then, I think people just saw that, oh wow, this is a money-making venture, and so a lot of young people are going into it, and it's just wickedness, it's laziness. Some will kidnap and still demand for ransom and still kill. It's appalling, and it's a good move by the Edo State House of Assembly. I think Nigeria, the Senate and the House of Representatives should follow suit and make it instill capital punishment for crimes like this. My take.
Very well said, Moses. I think you have touched on the basics. But the problem I have is that Edo State is not the first state to prescribe capital punishment for kidnappers. On top of my head, I can't recall, but I know that there are 2 or 3 other states, down south that have done that. Incidentally or unfortunately, kidnapping thrives. It's a thriving industry. It's a burgeoning industry in Nigeria. But in all of this, we have not seen anyone, that has been sentenced or that has been killed for kidnapping. So it begins to interrogate the essence of some of the laws that we have. You were very right when you said, look, people should not take advantage of this law, to set up others, to set up enemies, to set up people that have problems with, because it is bound to happen. So, but the beauty of it is that it has to go through the process in the law court. Lawyers will be there, prosecutors will be there, police will be there, and every other person will be out there, in the open, listening to ensure that, look, justice is served to anybody who has been accused of kidnapping. Another worry I have is that, why is it that the security agencies are unable to curb this incidence of kidnapping, this issue of kidnapping? Like I said, it's a thriving industry. Young men get into it. It's an easy way of making money. Unfortunately, we don't have security agencies, on top of this business, on top of the business of ensuring that, look, kidnappers are taken out of our society. Unfortunately, some people have been kidnapped. There's another angle to it. People are kidnapped, ransom paid, they are killed, and their bodies harvested. So the thing is, it's getting octopusal, like open source. You do one thing and there's a chain reaction to it. You kidnap people, you kill them. Even when ransom is paid, you kill them, harvest their organs. Where are we headed to? Where are we headed to? These things happen, and when we come on air to talk about these things, we talk over it, and the next day, the same thing happens. Yet, government, security agents, I keep talking about security agencies, because the business of government is to secure lives and property of people. And another thing is that these issues happen within earshots of police checkpoints and all of that. Let me tell you, there's this particular area in Abia State, between Abia and Enugu State, that used to be a flashpoint of kidnapping, insecurity, and all of that. Between Umunochi and the other part of Enugu State, the border part of Enugu State, you have military checkpoints there. And every time kidnapping happens there. It was the efforts of Alex Oti that when he came in and did some few things and the thing looked more like thought. But after a while, it came up again. I don't know the situation and I've not been in that area for a very long time. It is the responsibility of security agencies to ensure that, look, this thing is taken out by intelligence, by way of intelligence, or whatever thing you need to do to ensure that kidnapping stops. It is a good thing. But like I said, Edo State is not the first state that has done this thing. On top of my head, I can't remember other states, but I have not heard, maybe there is, that a particular court has sentenced a criminal, a kidnapper, to death. I'm yet to be proven wrong on that matter.
Well, you touched on another very sensitive issue there. It's a multi-layered problem. The organ harvesting aspect. I think it's a different thing, but they are using it to achieve the same aim of enriching themselves. It's like using one stone to kill two birds. There was a man who came to testify at some point that he belonged to a ring. That was popularized, sometime last year, late last year. Okay. A ring of those who harvest organs, and he's paid I think 15. Is it 30 or 50,000 for a heart, 20,000 for the left arm, 35,000 for right leg, and all of that. And at a point he was caught. The gentleman said, "Look, that the one that hurt him, he doesn't feel remorse for the things that he did, but the only one that affects him, that makes him feel some sort of remorse, is when he had to take his own friend." And it was because he got a request that he needed fresh blood and other parts, right hand or left hand and right leg and the rest. And he was out of Lagos, and he was thinking, where would he get body parts freshly, harvested at the time. And just about that time, a friend of his walked up to him and asked if he was coming to Lagos. He wanted to join him in the car, and then So it's a multi-layered problem, and it still speaks to the fact that people just want to make a living, and well, it's when punishments like this are meted out, maybe, just maybe, it will serve as a deterrent to those that are doing things like this. Well, let's move on to another issue now. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, in Osun State have raised concerns over the Inspector General of Police deployment of special forces, claiming it is intended to assassinate Governor Ademola Adeleke, the governor of the state. Now, this statement was made during a press conference. Well, during that press conference, party chairman Sunday BC suggested that the unrest in the state is part of a deliberate effort to disrupt upcoming local government elections. He called on the international community to intervene and prevent those threatening the governor's life, asserting that such schemes have been in place since the All Progressive Congress lost power in 2022. Well, BC also described the Special Forces deployment as a blatant coup attempt and accused the police of ignoring Adeleke's directives to restore peace and order in Osun State. Well, the governor, this you would find in the papers that he's there is an assassination attempt on his life. I think I would think it's a little exaggerated, because I don't think anybody would want to assassinate a sitting governor. But the question here is, or the crux of the matter is the police involvement in what is going on. The governor is supposedly the chief security advisor. The chief security the chief security officer of the state, but he doesn't seem to have a grip on the security architecture of that state. It calls the question, the kind of the way things are done in Nigeria. He can't even control those within his state, and it speaks to the fact that maybe, just maybe, state policing might curb some of these excesses, where those in the governors will have a good grip of those within their space. But I think he's crying. He's I think the Inspector General of Police should tread with caution, and the police should restore law and order. Elections are just 2 days away. Today is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, elections in the state. And also the question of local government autonomy. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to local government autonomy, because it doesn't seem like it seems like a lot of individuals are trying to hold the local government to achieve their own selfish aim. But anyway, let's see how this one pans out.
Yes, Moses, let's see how it pans out. I think what the PDP has done is to raise concerns. And it is concerning too to hear that, despite the fact that the governor cried out and said, look, Mr. President, this is what is going on in my state, and the next thing we'll see is deployment of special forces. But for now, we wouldn't know the reason. The police has not come out to say, look, this is the reason why we are deploying the special forces. But Moses, regarding the allegation of assassination, the issue of assassination raised by the PDP, in Nigeria, a lot of things happen here. And when we say, look, it can happen here, we also should bear in mind that history starts from a day. It could start happening now. Moses, we have seen a serving minister killed in this government, and nothing has ever come out of it. I'm talking about Pabola Ige. He was killed as a serving minister. So nothing says that a sitting governor can also not be killed. We have not heard that before, but like I said, history starts from a day. So what PDP is trying to do is to preempt the situation and say, look, Nigerians, this is what we are experiencing. This is what is likely to happen. I'm sure that PDP is coming from that direction, given that despite what the governor has been passing through in the last 1 week or so, the other party seems to be upping their game, doing exactly what they want to do to achieve what they want to achieve. In all of this, have we heard the president or the presidency even say anything? Maybe he has, but I have not heard. Have we heard the APC say anything? The only thing the APC has done is to deny without even addressing the issue at core. What is the issue at core? Local government chairmen who were asked to leave by the court, and all of a sudden somebody is waving an unknown court judgment and say, look, you have to go in and take over the seat. Why? Because of the elections that is just coming up 2 days away from now. And the local government election, like you said, Moses, is a test of what will happen in Osun State by the time the Goba elections is up. So I think what the PDP is trying to do is to say, look, if we don't stop this thing now, of course, if they don't stop it, if the APC is able to install their own men as local government chairman, that is grassroots politics. Essentially, what it means is that by the time we go into Goba elections, the governor will have a problem contending with the local government because the chairman will clearly be in charge of local governments. And our politics is all about numbers. It's about grassroots, people who come out to vote and all of that. So that is why they are struggling for the soul of the local government. It's very clear. My call is like, police, be very careful. Don't be partisan. Be very impartial in what we are doing. We should also have the DSS, the intelligence community, way into this to ensure that there is no form of infraction in terms of taking sides with either of the parties. We have a serving minister who is in contention, in all of this. I don't know his role in all of this, but speculations are that from the PDP angle that he is the one behind all of this drama. It is a good thing that the president, who has him as his nephew, should rein him in and call him to order. Allow the will of the people to prevail, democracy. That is the essence of what we are talking about. Let the people's will, democracy. Let voters' votes count. If people go out to vote on Saturday, their vote should count. And it's also a clarion call on the police to ensure that a certain level of, high level of impartiality in the conduct of this Saturday elections, as well as the state independent the State Independent Electoral Commission. They should also ensure that, look, they are impartial in all that they do.
All right, nicely said. Now let's go to other issues now. We have the papers in front of us. We'll take a little break, a very short one. When we come back, we'll be looking at headlines that made it to the cover pages of the dailies. Join us again. Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging one-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us. Are you ready to connect with distinguished Nigerians around the world? The Diaspora Perspective is here to share the views of Nigerians in the diaspora on burning issues.
From the street of New York, the royal cities of London, and the bustling cities of Europe, Voice of the People Television brings to you
Well, thanks for joining us again. Now, let's dive into the papers now. We do have Nigerian Tribune is up, and the headlines here read, alleged funding of Boko Haram by USAID, Senate invites NSA, NIA, DSS chiefs. That's the banner headline. And then on top of the masthead, illegal dissolution of LG's treasonable, AGF. Nigeria sues Binance for $81.5 billion economic tax losses. All right then. And Kyari dispels fuel quality rumor, says it's bad marketing antics. Edo Assembly sacks all political appointees. Kebbi APC holds rally, declares support for Tinubu adopts Idris for second term. President has been fair to all. Bagudu. Osun Assembly condemns takeover of LG Secretariat by APC. Adeleke meets British diplomats, berates Egbetokun. Egbetokun doing his job. APC replies Adeleke. LG crisis, reps to investigate security situation. These are the headlines on the cover page of the Nigerian Tribune.
And up next is the Punch newspaper with window headlines. Dangote, NNPCL refineries not supplying 50% local fuel demand. That's coming from the federal government. And CBN probes 19.7 million dormant bank accounts. And okay, visa, again, CDS defense handling of Canadian visa application. Now, beside the masthead, you have federal government demands $81 billion from Binance for alleged tax invasion. I'll take that again. Federal government demands $81 billion from Binance for alleged tax invasion. Now, the big story, USAID, that's you said, Boko Haram controversy. Nigeria may miss $603 million fund. Senate summons service chiefs. With the riders, Borno asks FG to lead probe. US aid's 2025 budget targets defense, health, others. Okay, there are more stories from there. Zamfara explosion. Ex-Governor Yari pays hospital bills as NEMA visits victims. Now, Lagos Assembly. Obasa denies stockpiling arms. Miranda refutes resignation claim. That's very interesting. Policeman, complainant, arrested over newlyweds' death in custody. And the last but not the least, local government autonomy. CBN, 774 chairmen of differ over council's account opening. That's all from the Punch newspaper.
All right, then let's go to another daily now. Daily Trust, and well, let's stop on the Vanguard. The Guardian, I beg your pardon. The Guardian newspaper has its banner headline: Council Autonomy Funding. AGF, EFCC talk tough. Caution governors, LG bosses on treason, fraud. And then visa denial. Nigeria won't brook disrespect from any country, says DHQ. FG slams Binance with fresh $81.5 billion suit over economic sabotage. Ohaneze Asaba of Asaba, Wogu, others mourn Clark Adebanjo. Nigeria secures 1.6 billion naira AI investment from Microsoft. Don't let Osun descend into chaos. Speaker Olajegbesi tells Tinubu, APC. And then we have Akpabio meets Tinubu as Senate summons intelligence chiefs over USAID terrorism claims. Lagos Assembly denies mass defection rumors. Defection to what party, I ask? FG bans 60,000 naira litre petrol tankers as accident claims 3,500 lives. All right, these are the headlines on the cover page of the Guardian newspaper. And let's also touch on the Daily Trust now. The Daily Trust has this headline here. It says, FG to bar 60,000 naira litre fuel tankers from roads March 1. Policy will cost truck owners 300 billion naira. That's from NATO. 172 oil truck accidents, 1,896 deaths reported since 2009. Okay, Osun Council crisis deepens as sacked chairmen take over LGs. Why we engaged another service provider for 2025 Hajj, NACON. Visa denial. Nigeria won't tolerate disrespect from any country. CDS. And then we also have AGF to governors. Sacking elected LG chairs is treason. Man kills friend after serving him meal. Battle of Wits, Lagos, other state assemblies involved in speakership crisis. I take that one again for emphasis. The Battle of Wits, Lagos, other state assemblies involved in speakership crisis. Senate summons NSA, DSS, NIA over USA terrorism funding allegation. Aid agencies' officers have no business in Nigeria if found to be true. Akpabio. All right, so those are the headlines there.
Now, over to the Guardian newspaper with visa denial. Nigeria won't brook disrespect from any country, says Defense Headquarters. That's DHQ. Federal government slams Binance with fresh $81.5 billion suit over economic sabotage. That's from the Guardian newspaper. And now the big story. Council autonomy, funding, AGF, EFCC talk tough, caution governors, local government bosses on treason, fraud. That story is on page 6. And most stories from the Guardian. Ohaneze, Asaba of Asaba, Nwogu, others mourn Clark, Adebanjo. Okay. Nigeria secures 1.6 billion naira AI investment from Microsoft. Now, don't let Oshun descend into chaos. Speaker Olajebensi tell Tinubu APC. And Akpabio meets Tinubu as Senate summons intelligence chiefs over USA terrorism claims. Now, Lagos Assembly denies mass defection rumors. And, well, the bottom strip, federal government bans 60,000-litre petrol tankers as accidents claim 3,500 lives. Now, up next is, let's move over to the First News newspaper. And it says, Governor Adeleke to UK envoy. IGP backing APC's rape on democracy. All right, you have the window headline. Super Eagles, CAF, back Lukman amid criticism from Atlanta coach. And Senate calls for national monument in honor of Edwin Clark. Oh, well, FG boosts tax reforms, inaugurates 50 tax appeal commissioners. And APC council officials resume in Osho LGAs amid tensions. Now the big story, road safety boost, 60,000-litre fuel tankers banned in Nigeria. There are more stories from the First News newspaper. Senate summons NSA, that's National Security Advisor, security chiefs over USA terrorism funding claim. Now Nigeria deserves respect. That's coming from defense chiefs as he condemns visa snub. Oh, well, federal government slams Binance with fresh $85.1 billion lawsuit. And that's all from the First News newspaper.
And that's all for newspaper headlines. At 9 o'clock, we'll go a little deeper. That one we call newspaper review, because we'll be doing a review of the headlines that you have right there on the cover pages of the dailies. Now let's get into the conversation. And as we get into the conversation, do know that we will be joined by Dele Fanimo, who is a seasoned reporter and a public affairs commentator. We'll also be joined by Olusegun Okwade, a policy and public affairs analyst, and Barrister Innocent Eku, principal partner and executive director of Innocent Eku & Co. law firm. Well, he will be joining us virtually from Port Harcourt. And what's the conversation? Boko Haram funding, Senate to grill top security chiefs. Let's talk about this with our guests and you, of course, as we get into this conversation. Join us again.
We go to bed empty hunger.
To the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lawn.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents.
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
Representing the interests of the people, and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people. Do you want your voice to be heard? Do you know that you matter in the scheme of things? The People's Voice, the show where ordinary citizens take center stage as we discuss the biggest stories that affect you and I. With you in mind, we facilitate lively discussions, debates, and interviews on the topics that matter most to you and I, from social justice to economic empowerment, education to healthcare, governance, and more. Tackling tough topics and amplifying your voice. People's Voice, Mondays through Thursdays, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Join the conversation and make your voice count. The People's Voice. Make your voice count. Catch up with the latest topics making the buzz, the stories that tick, the trends. Let's let you in on why they are trending, from politics, entertainment, business. On Voice of the People Television, giving you an insight to everything and everyone Nigeria is talking about. Showing on VOP TV, 10 p.m. Monday to Friday. Hashtag, if it's trending, we bring it on.
Well, thanks for joining us again. It's VOP this morning, and let's get into the conversation. The very first conversation on our table this morning. The Nigerian Senate has called on key security agencies. Well, yes, the Nigerian Senate has called on key security officials to investigate claims that international organizations, particularly USAID, may have unintentionally funded terrorist groups like Boko Haram, ISIS, and the rest. Now, this follows allegations made by U.S. Congressman Scott Perry in a viral video stating that USAID's budget of $697 million could support extremist activities, including funding Islamic schools in Nigeria. And he did mention specifically Boko Haram. Well, the investigation aligns with concerns from Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff regarding foreign support for terrorism. The Senate has summoned the National Security Advisor and other intelligence leaders. Now, this situation arises amid increasing scrutiny of U.S. foreign aid policies and past actions by former President Trump, who had suspended foreign aid to evaluate its alignment with U.S. interest, drawing criticism for affecting agencies like the USAID. Now, the USAID has been suspended for I think 90 days, and then a lot of dust being thrown in the air. Well, let's meet our guest now. From Port Harcourt, we have Barrister Innocent Oku, who joins us virtually. We'll let you know when he joins the conversation. But with us in the studio, we have Dele Fanimo, who is a seasoned reporter and also a public affairs commentator. Good to have you join us this morning.
Good morning, Moses and Chukuma.
You look,
I'm my new partner.
You look like you're going to the Senate. No, it's not a barrister. You look like you're going to the Senate.
Senate?
Yes, the way you're dressed.
Ah, well, would they allow me?
They probably will. Well, we also have Olusegun Okwade, who is a policy and public affairs analyst. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Moses. Good morning, Prof.
Good to
you
had to do that. I could feel the emphasis there.
Yeah, and by Big Oga. Looking at the attire, you know the senators in the making.
He's probably going there to question the security agencies as well on what they know about USA. But before you go there, let's talk about what we know. Let's talk about what maybe coming out of this investigation? Let me start off with you now, Cheson. It's been a while. It's been a while. But what do you expect to hear from that investigation, from the investigation that the Senate intends to conduct, seeing that in times past we've had names given to the federal government of Nigeria of those that might be sponsoring terrorism in Nigeria, but nothing has been done in that regard. And all of a sudden, United States congressman speaks fire, and we're running, looking for shelter, calling up on security agencies, the National Security Advisor, to come answer questions. What do you think will come out of this one?
Thank you very much, Moses. Maybe I don't know whether I should sound pessimistic, optimistic. Nothing will come out of it. Truth is just an act we are used to, being reactive to issue and never proactive. The U.S. congressman is actually coming out with some of the policies by Trump, and everyone is looking inward. You ask yourself the question in some of the things you've said. During the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, we had about 400 names shared with us from Dubai, who will say allegedly on our own part here, who Dubai confirms that are actually sponsoring some of those people. You ask yourself the question, have you heard of a single person actually being brought to book on some of those things? Even internally, we have heard, allegations against governors, against people in the high and mighty. I remember, I think the former CBN, one of the CBN officials, then that came up to actually spoke about the sponsor. Mama Larry that came to speak about the sponsorship of some of these is dead, yeah. Terrorists that we have, and no action has actually been done. I think it's another way of sponsoring people to come and take out of the largesse, because they will come, they'll give their own side of the story, and no action will be done. And I've always been emphasizing this, that there are no consequences for wrongdoing, and that is why we are where we are today. Even it will beat your imagination to say that the preference we give to some of these terrorists, a lot of us, the lawyers, will come and say, "So this is democracy." And my position has always been capital punishment. And what do I say this? They've killed. And why do you have to spare someone that has actually killed one way or the other? I've actually even mentioned it, that even in terms of corruption, with some of those people that are acting on this act, it should be capital punishment. This will serve as deterrent. There are messages you pass to people that take your faith before you go into the act, by saying that this act I intend to venture into, if I'm caught, death penalty is what I'm going to face. But situation where you see individuals who are saying that those that are being caught are being lavish with the taxpayers' money by taking care of them, even against those that have actually been displaced. What you see that will be happening is that people will want to get more involved in that particular activity and, share it to the public that they actually carried it. So, by your question, I don't expect anything positive out of this, because we've seen in time past, because the major sponsor of some of these activities that are actually going on, whether directly or indirectly, are people who are in high places that are untouchable. You and I understand that as far as this country is concerned, we have laws for two sets of people. If you steal so much, you can definitely venture into plea bargaining by giving part of it. But if you're a low-trading person and you pick phone up, I'm sure you know what the penalty looked like. So these are things we've asked ourselves that we should speak to as a nation. Have a system that works, that does not segregate or differentiate between people. So inviting them to come, I can preempt what the answer will look like. Right. They already have the answer. They already have it. And even if names are mentioned, I can tell you that we go nowhere with that.
Thanks very much, Stacey. You said quite a lot, and I'll stay with you on this. And after, I'd like Dele to, or probably our guest in Parakot, if he's in, to also react to it. You said something about people in high places, being, like 2 laws for people in high places. I understand, and everybody understands what you're talking about. Ceci, is there a possibility that the government, the intelligence community, wasn't aware that USAID was funding terrorism in Nigeria? I say that in light of the fact that there was a certain committee that was set up, regarding how to fight Boko Haram and all of that. And our own dear Bolaji Akinyemi, was part of that committee. And he spoke the other day, he said, the USAID revelation is very timeless because, according to him, when they were talking to people in Borno State, in these terrorism-infested communities, the members of the community came out to say, look, that at night they saw helicopters, land and drop and unload arms by white men. But at that time, they were thinking that it was the French that was doing that. But from the revelation of Scott Perry, that it is very clear now that it was America that was doing that. That is on the side. Again, a few weeks before this, the Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa, raised the alarm that NGOs, were also helping, in the festering of terrorism. If you put these things together, is there a possibility that government didn't know? That a particular government was not aware that USAID or foreign partners or foreigners were sponsoring terrorism in Nigeria?
Yeah, Prof, if you say the government do not know anything about it, that means we are speaking to the fact that they are failed in their responsibility, which is actually to probe who has the highest mechanism to track and trace some of these things that we're talking about. The funds that is coming in from USAID to Nigeria, coming not directly into individuals' account, but through a channel, because it's not local currency. Even the local currency that is being exchanged between you and I are being monitored. You understand, most of the time, if I transfer funds to Moses beyond a specific amount as stipulated by the CBN, you discover that there will be a flyer to say this is actually the way this person is going. We have limitation, we have peg. So it's to tell you that we have a system. Each time I tell individual, it's not new laws that will change things. It's the laws that we have. How much do we follow through in terms of implementation? If I transfer 10 million to you in your account continuously, it will be flagged. But do you know they choose whether to act or not to act based on the individual concern? And that is where we continue to have the problem. Because if you go to banks, they will tell you Money Laundering Act, there is a specific amount that is expected of you as individual, as corporate organization. Once it's above that, they are supposed to flag it. So are we saying that the Central Bank of Nigeria see this and they take their eyes off it, or they've learned the approach of this is the threshold, let's go beyond the threshold? But even when you go below the threshold, how frequent are you getting such funds? Because these are part of the things that you're supposed to investigate, to ask questions. And that's why I say it is not always good to be reactive. You see the first time, you see the second time. If continuously you have frequent funds coming into your account, I can tell you that at our level, the banks will block your account and invite you for investigation. Why are we not doing that to specific NGOs to ask questions where they are getting some of those things from? So this is why I feel so worried that inviting them to come and give those, it's not even about the security agency alone. Even the channel at which the funds is coming in, there should be questioning to some of those, because they should have actually raised the alarm to say this frequent funds into this person's account is becoming suspicious. Let me use the word that the bankers will use. Somebody who for like 10 years have always been funded, the highest fund you will see enter into that account is maybe 500,000. And all of a sudden you start seeing 50 million, 70 million.
All right.
Should that not call for questioning?
Then I want you to react, but before reacting, you recall that at a time, Godwin Emefiele was being tried for terrorism. Right? Am I right? Does it have anything to do with what Sheso said about government knowing that these monies were coming for particular reasons? Is there a possibility that there could be an exodus or a link with all of that? At the time, the charge was dropped. Who knows why it was dropped? Is it because he was about to squeal or something of that nature?
Just like Barrister said.
He's not a barrister.
Just like the Barrister said. there's a threshold
Okay.
within which there is a trigger that says something is wrong with this particular account. And dollars coming from a known agency like that is drawn down through the CBN. And when it is drawn down through the CBN, CBN has the prerogative to find out the purpose. I've been involved in some of these kind of transactions in the past, that even if investors want to invest in Nigeria, in our economy, the first point, once that fund is released from anywhere in the world, is for CBN to take charge. CBN now draws it down and then give to the recipient. That is to the extent that I think Emefiele is being questioned. And perhaps, from all indications, if you loop some of these things together, you will know that government had an idea of this funding being diverted for that purpose. That's a global purpose. Because we have always said it here, and we have been unanimous in saying that it doesn't take government to fight Boko Haram too long a period if the political will is there. We have seen cases where legislators, governors, ex-governors, the governors that are now resting in the Senate, because that's their rest house now, being accused of involvement in some of these activities, but nobody takes charge of investigation and nobody reports back to the public that this is our finding. So, to the extent of Emefiele's involvement, alleged involvement, that may be the reason for him not to have probed the drawdowns. You understand? Maybe that. But the USAID thing, it's quite instructive, and this gives me a goose pimple. When I saw that story, when I saw that video, I asked myself, to what end are we spending money on our secret service, NIA, DSS, DMI, and the intelligence community? Why are we spending money on them if they are not able to track some of this? How can a ragtag non-state actor group sustain itself for more than 15 years, and our security architecture cannot probe deep into the funding system to the extent that terrorists now use drones? These are things that don't come cheap. It's not Dengon. It's not even AK-47. Somehow, the narrative they give us is that because of the Arab Spring, which upset the Tunisia, Algeria down to Mali, that maybe small arms were taken from all these places and they found their way into Nigeria. But that is not, drone was not too popular when Arab Spring occurred. So how did these people get all these sophisticated weapons? Now they jam and track communication of our security agents, and yet we are not able to track all these things.
Let me ask you, as a seasoned reporter now, do you subscribe to a closed door session on issues like this that borders on the security of Nigeria? Shouldn't Nigerians be made aware of the process, the questions being asked, and the response being given?
You see, this is not about security.
The Senate is calling for a closed door session.
Let me tell you, if you put it in proper context, this is not about security. This is about corruption. You understand? US aid has objectives. And I'm sure
That's if the allegations are true.
if these allegations are true. Okay. And there is nothing secret about this anymore. Funds meant for taking care of displaced people, those who are in need, medical needs, health interventions and all that are now being deployed. As a matter of fact, whoever is caught in the web of this, either as willing actor or by virtue of his position, this thing passed through him at one time or the other, should be charged with treason, because it's a crime against the state. If you are funding and aiding and abetting non-state actors to decimate Nigeria, it is tantamount to treason. And I'm happy that there is a lawyer here who can also help me.
Well, the lawyer hasn't joined us. He's still, yes.
Yes, I have lawyers. So, because for me, if people are being killed on hourly basis, not even daily anymore, and some people are found to have connived with these non-state actors, look at the volume of money that were traced to non-state actors through kidnapping, ransom paid through kidnapping, over 2 trillion naira. That is enough to run down this country. And some people are also assisting them to harm them, to equip them to fight the state. Whoever is caught in that web shouldn't be spared at all.
All right then. Let me come back to you now, Mr. Okwadi. Now, I would like to react to the closed door session aspect that the Senate is calling for this, and also let's interrogate the what comes to mind when you think about the Tucano jets that were given to Nigeria at some point by the United States to combat terrorism, with specific instructions on how it will be used, because they did say to us that they would like to supervise the usage of those Tucano jets to ensure that it is not used to attack those that are not terrorists, those within the southeast, but used to combat terrorists themselves in the northeast, the northern part of the country. But we haven't heard of the usage or the outcome of those Tucano jets and some of the gadgets and ammunition gotten from the abroad.
A lot of us were actually being criticized when this issue of Tucano jet was to be birthed, because we felt that should be an investment into more things that will give economic growth. Why do I say this then? This fight against terrorism is a fight against ideology. You know, people are being indoctrinated into an act to carry arms against their states, and that is what you should fight. And that is why up till now, the usage of some of those huge ammunition we invested in cannot. And it was, you know, at that point this question came up, and I'm like, how will I use my fund to buy something for myself from a manufacturer, and I'm being given instruction on how to use it? People will say it's because of international coalition on the issue of peace and wherever. First and foremost, if you know that I don't have the understanding of how to use it, don't sell it to me. Then we'll sort alternative. But I cannot go ahead. We invested billions of dollars on that particular thing, and up till now, rather than having, you know, reduction in the crisis, it keeps increasing on daily basis. The fact remains that we may not be having it on the media, but on daily basis we'll wake up. You heard about the killing in Kaduna or Katsina a few days ago. No, it was yesterday. I think I was granting an interview online yesterday when I heard about that report of an attack, you know, in Kaduna or Katsina State.
Katsina.
Yesterday.
Shortly after the withdrawal of the soldiers. So people calculatively still carry out the act over 15 years, and we are still on the same spot. And we have said it's not about coming with full force. If we have gone to other neighboring countries to fight war and win, those are conventional war that you can fight with this ammunition, and this is fight against ideology. People
people are actually being brainwashed into what they should not. And that is an area we should start. How much of enlightenment are you given to people against this? It has gotten bad that, do you know, the attack that happens at times that we'll call accidental discharge, it's because some of the people that stays in particular area where this Boko Haram exists have mingled up with them. Some of them have even taken them as friends in such a way that what they gain from them is much more what they gain from the government. So they would rather not expose them, but sit them as area that, okay, I can't be part of you, but what I can do is that you are my friend. Go ahead and do. So when you are being caught in the net, it will be difficult for you to expose somebody who has been given. And that's why we say we cannot fight this war in a conventional way. It's fighting ideology. It's to see.
All right, still talking about. Sorry, please. Still talking about fighting the war. Isn't it troubling? Or what do you think? I'm going to stay with you on this one. What do you think about the fact that due to the stoppage of US aid, about 28,000 health officials linked to US aid have been disengaged? So for the period of time that US aid may not come, they won't be paid. But the federal government of Nigeria has decided to absorb them into the health sector and pay them. But we have a situation whereby in our missions and embassies abroad, a lot of them have not been paid for 6 months. We're losing doctors, we're losing health workers back here in Nigeria. The federal government is talking about taking 28,000.
You see, we are good at showing ourselves as a good, how will I put it, good ambassador. If you look at the mission of USAID, it has a very fantastic way. But because we don't have a system that follows through some of the activities we are doing, it now becomes a problem. Now that they've withdrawn that, my even concern when they talked about the 28,000 staff that are working is that if care is not taken, these are people that one way or the other have been relating to individuals, you know, providing support to them. They are not the only one you are disengaging. You are impacting even on the people that they are serving, because they will no longer be there to provide that service for them. Absorbing them, you ask yourself, where is the fund to actually carry that out?
That's the big question.
Because we are still struggling to fulfill some of our obligation as a nation to the current employees that are being engaged by the government.
Could that be part of the reason the Senate is taking money from
Capital.
From the capital expenditure, putting it into concurrent? Could that be some sort of
linkage?
You see,
when I saw that thing that about 500 billion was actually pulled to be added to the recurrent expenditure, I asked myself the question: how do we expect growth in this country? That 500, there is no if you don't have enough, except they are telling us that some of those capital infrastructure was over bloated, and they just decide to feel that taking care of the recurrent will be much more than it. Because I feel that a lot of people want to add more investment in their capital infrastructure so that with time you will have an increase in your recurrent expenditure. Because when there are infrastructure, what you're doing is that you are expanding the scope of activities for people to actually carry out operation. But when you increase your recurrent expenditure, you can't sustain it. It's unsustainable, if you ask me, because you are paying people salaries, emolument, and they are not working.
But could there be some sort of linkage in all of this? I mean, we're trying to make sense of it all.
Well, I would say it will be difficult to link
to determine.
it.
Okay.
It will be difficult to determine because I have yet to have access to the line item that led to that thing. I've asked the question, which of the capital expenditure are we reducing to that tune to augment that recurrent expenditure? I have no idea of those line items, but I feel that a lot of organization is just like you increasing your operation cost in this organization without having the necessary gadget. I'm sure if you do that for the next 6 months, this organization will crash. And that's why you see more investment in capital expenditure than the recurrent expenditure, because with the provision of the capital expenditure, recurrent expenditure would definitely grow automatically. By the time you have buildings, you have infrastructure that are operational, what you do is that you need more people to fill in the gap. But as we speak, you want to pay people that have been disengaged over 28,000, sustain their salary. Doing what? Because the people you have engaged, are you saying that we are short-staffed in the health ministry? That this will, even with the level of japa we are talking about, that we are overstretching some of those people, can we look for a way to even augment those that have actually been stretched before now with some of the funds we intend to make in providing this, so that we can open up the space for other people to contribute?
All right then, thank you very much, Shesi. Now, let's look at let's talk geopolitics, the geopolitical implications, and how it's going to affect us as a nation in the discovery, the revelation that has been made about USA. This thing, I think, started during the period of Barack Obama. And if you have read former President Jonathan's book, if you have also listened to him, he was very clear that Obama, didn't support him. And if what we hear now about you said is anything to go by, Seshi said something about fighting ideology, that the war against terrorism is more like a war against ideology. And I'm beginning to ask, what do you think could possibly be the interest of the United States in ensuring that Boko Haram festers in Nigeria? Nigeria wasn't the only place Scott Perry mentioned. He mentioned Afghanistan, he mentioned ISIS. And these are clearly Islamic countries. So what do you think could be the reason why America was actually sponsoring terrorism in all parts of the world? Was it to increase the bent of Islamism? Was it because, like Trump said, Barack Hussein Obama is a Muslim? Look at what he did with the Iran nuclear deal. He more like watered it down. And Israel accused him that if that nuclear deal went on, that Iran could actually have a nuclear weapon within 10 years. So if you put all of these things together, what is the geopolitical implication of that particular action? Or if you said sponsoring Boko Haram and other terrorist organizations, does it have anything to do with our geopolitics and all of that?
You see, Obama, unfortunately, had his own intention beyond what we saw when he was contesting for the American presidency. One, a lot of people, particularly in Africa, saw a black man eventually becoming United States president. Some even were rejoicing in Nigeria at his victory more than those in America. But you see, one thing that is very instructive, no matter how strong a system is, no matter how strong an institution is, a dictator who finds himself in power will still find a way of working around the system for his own selfish interest. And that was exactly what Obama did. Obama was clear about legitimizing LGBTQ. And if you noticed, there was this funny joke in the social media recently that Jonathan said Obama actually had conversation with him that he should legitimize this LGBTQ, and that he told him that he will get back to him. And that was at the time when Boko Haram crisis was raging. And at that time, according to that joke, if it is true or not, but it was instructive that Jonathan had to call other presidents in Africa, and they told the same line with him that, look, it is against nature and it's un-African that whoever proposes and legitimizes such means that person is not African. So Jonathan went that way. And that was the beginning of the descent from Obama as a person. But you know, some of these state actors, when they want to do certain things, they will cloak it around state policy, even when it was their own personal agenda. So, immediately after that, Obama became withdrawn, while Jonathan was pushing that he needed those arms to fight insurgency. At a point, you recall that when Jonathan couldn't have his way with American government, he had to use other means, quote and unquote, which included using the private jet of a cleric to go to South Africa
in search of arms.
In search of arms, which was then brought into South Africa through Russia. Now, that became very instructive, and that also led to the way Jonathan was rooted out of power.
Okay, now, exactly to my question now. Why was the bastion of democracy, America, sponsoring terrorism in African and Middle East countries? As far as Afghanistan, Far East, why were they sponsoring terrorism? Can you put your finger
on it? You just said Hussein. One thing I know about religion is the religion does not really change your perception.
Could it be religious, or could it be
America
tap into the resources of a particular place, or control
America,
the government of that country?
America would ordinarily, and if you look at the pattern of the way parties rule in America, an average Republican has so much disdain for anything terrorism, and that's why they call them warmongers. They want to get to the last terrorist and bring that person down. But the Republicans, the Democrats, would rather look the way of the economy. They want to bring the economy up, make it good and all that. You see, for me, America does not have any reason to sponsor terrorism to achieve its aim of getting to the resources of any country. It doesn't.
Right. Okay.
But the personal inclination of whoever is the president of America. Now, look at what is happening today. Trump was not, he's not bothered about your comment about his role in America, Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah war. It's clear about, even when Biden preempted him before he got into government by extending support to Ukraine. As soon as he came, he was not ready to listen to everybody.
Right, let me come back to Sheso now, and let me ask you the same question. Really, could it be policy? Could it be to control the government of that country, or could it be measures for the United States to take the resources of that country? Let's juxtapose this allegation and the postulations that we are putting forward with what just happened in areas like Burkina Faso, Niger, and where hunters decided to take over because they felt displeased by the French, by the French, where the French basically orchestrated and put their military bases in those countries, and then terrorist activities continued unabated until these juntas took power and are trying to rejig the architecture in those places.
Yeah, I think I want to go the path of delay to say Americans don't need to sponsor terrorism to have access to things. They would rather go the route of the way the Europeans will do to enslave you the more, create hardship, and with that you yield yourself willingly and your resources, not the route of this aggressive way, because I would call this aggressive way of having access to your natural resources. And if you look at the areas where some of these things are, maybe I will speak more to say if such things are created, allegedly that they are actually sponsoring,
Allegedly.
it might be to promote the sales of the ammunition and some of those things. But to have access to your natural resources and other things, there are more better way of them putting pressure on you in a subtle manner that on your own you will give those things to them. Are they the one that are actually making things difficult, that we are enslaving ourselves the second time by everybody wanting to japa? The japa syndrome is enough for people to feel that with the resources that we have in the country, there is no better place to be than there. And I will always tell individual that cares to know that if you go to the airport, you have influx of foreigners coming into the country that we are complaining that is bad and terrible, while we have our own excuse them, is to tell you that the best way to get a man is not by is just to stiffen the economic situation. Possibly if you are talking of imposing tariff, telling you that they will discontinue having access to some of those things, it may be fine. But this aspect, I think, is more of individual objective than the collective objective of United States of America.
All right, then let's go to Port Harcourt, where we are being joined by Barrister Innocent Tuku Eku, who is a principal partner and executive director of Innocent Tuku and Co. Law Firm. We're good to have you join us this morning. All right, then, Barrister, we understand that we had to drag you from wherever you are. Well, anyway, let me put you on the spot very quickly. I do believe that you've been listening, you've been following the conversation so far. So let me quickly put you on the spot here now. Nigeria, US, talking about the suspension of US aid and the possibility or the likelihood of US aid being used to perpetrate terrorist activities in Nigeria. And also, we've examined the relationship between past presidents of the United States and past presidents of Nigeria, and how Barack Obama did not support Goodluck Jonathan when he was in office. But there was a report very recently that talked about President Bola Tinubu being a CIA asset, supposedly a CIA asset. Now, whether or not this is true, we don't know for sure, because the president did not come out to refute it, and more information has not come from that. But just going by what has been put out there, would you think, how would you assess that revelation that was made some time back about the president, like possibly being a CIA asset, and the relationship, this conversation around US aid sponsoring terrorism? Is it that the United States is interested in, what is their interest in Nigeria? Barrister Innocent. All right, and well, unfortunately, we've lost connection with Barrister Innocent there. But let me bring this conversation back to Mr. Okwade. Now, let me ask you this same question.
I'm uncertain now.
All right, then. So he will like our engineers to rectify that network there with Barrister Innocent, and then we'll come back to him in the course of the program. Now, the conversation around the president possibly being a CIA asset, that comes to mind. With all of these things happening, people are thinking, looking for answers, looking for what could be the link, really. What are your thoughts?
Well, this idea of saying is a CIA agent asset, to me, does not actually hold water. One thing I know about African leaders is they try the best they can do, even though most of the time we don't believe in ourselves. We intend to do more of copying what others are doing, which is not bad, but you ask yourself, how much of that can you do perfectly? I've said it times to that number that if you are a leader in this country, you should learn how to domesticate your issues and see how you can solve it, so that you will not be an appendage to other nations. And I think it's on this premise everybody is thinking, because any little thing, we are out there flying up and down to see how we can collaborate and see the assistance of some of these developed countries. If you develop your country and you grow it the way it is, I will always use Nigeria as a yardstick to say everybody wants to come to Lagos. Why? Because there seems to be relative development in the state, and people consider it as where you can easily get money on the streets, even when that's not the story. If you go to rural area, Lagos is like traveling to America. It's like traveling to London, and it's still in the same part of the country. It's because there are certain development that the government has put together and is attracting people. So if you do the same as a nation in such a way that your natural resources are not actually being mismanaged or being mistapped by the illegal act and being used for the common goal as a nation, I believe the foreign country will look after and sort after you, and you will not be an appendage. So for me, I won't consider that as something to worry about.
Okay.
It's just the mentality of an average Nigerian. Everything we want to do. There has been a position where I came up and said we manufacture clothes in the country, but they will tell you that officially, for you to be recognized, we must all dress the way we are. Who says that this man is not officially or corporately dressed? We all came in this morning and we said it looks more like identifying him. Now, the three of us, we don't know where we belong. But this is a typical, anywhere he goes, is a typical Nigeria. Whether you want to say it's from the north, or it's from the east, or from, but it's a typical Nigeria. When are we going
it's
to
the
have
influence,
that?
the colonial influence. That's
those colonial influence should actually be watered down one way or the other, so that we can start building the culture that we can hand over to our people.
And that's why right here on VOP on Fridays we try to represent our culture by dressing accordingly.
That's
right here.
It's a good one. You know, it's been a while I've been on set on Friday.
Okay.
So, but it's a good one if we can start introducing that even in offices. Fridays, make it a dress down. Okay. I understand the abuse of that might come from it. Okay. But at least let's look for a way to domesticate and promote some of our.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts there, Mr. Fanimo. Now let's come to you. I mean, you've been getting a lot of accolades, so you probably want to give answers to this question. What do you think will? How do you think this whole thing will play out? Yeah. How do you think it will affect Nigeria-U.S. relations going forward? Whether or not it is confirmed, whether or not the allegations are confirmed, how do you think it will affect Nigeria-U.S. relations?
Okay, sorry, I would also like you to put together your thoughts concerning this question. Do you even think that something will come out? It was Session that took that question before, but I would like you to react. Is this going to be a ritual? Let's just tell Nigerians that we are doing something. Do you expect something or anything to come out from this probe by the Senate?
You see, the involvement of a congressman pushing out this narrative, and at the same time, we are looking at something that talks at the heart of the continued existence of this country, the way terrorists have been assailing us in this country. It will be a disservice to the nation if nothing comes out of this. At least for us to have an idea of what and who are involved in all of this. You see, most of these monies that are funneled back to this country, I know that some of these monies ended up in private pockets. And I also know that terrorism has become an enterprise today. I told you of my encounter with a military officer who told me that...
Let's assume that something comes out of it. Maybe not pointing fingers at presidents of the United States, or maybe pointing fingers at certain individuals. But let's assume that something comes out of it. What will happen to the relationship between Nigeria and the USA?
You see, number one, the fact that money is coming from USAID and being deployed to things that are not meant for, that they are not meant for, it means that it's an indictment on the US government. We are talking about US government, we are not talking about individual presidents anymore. Because US has an institution that provides this fund and also protects how it is channeled. So for the congressman to say that this is how this money is deployed, maybe for the whims or caprices of whoever was the president at that time, is an indictment on the US. And I'm sure that they will take it up. So conversely, when we come back to Nigeria, if we now paper over it and we don't get to the root of the matter, definitely, there's a development that would harm our relationship with America.
How?
Because ordinarily, even if US is bringing this money and is being channeled by an individual who happens to be a state actor for purposes other than what it was meant, are we not duty bound as Nigerians, knowing that these terrorists decimate our ranks, kill people at will, to raise alarm? Must we wait for a congressman in the US to raise an alarm? Even when this money falls into the hands of...
The government has already reacted. They said, okay, now USAID has taken away their money, and they also replaced it with a certain billions of naira to say, look, if this USAID money was doing this, and they've taken it back, now take it and continue the work of USAID. You are
those who have been killed with the aid of these funds, can you tell me how they are going to take them back?
All right then. Okay. Let's.
Somebody must have. Must answer to this.
All right.
And there should be consequence. He just said something, and which I've always been reiterating here, that most things are encouraged because there are no consequences for action.
Okay.
So even if we are saying, like our NSA said, to hell
with Canada,
USAID, but we cannot say to hell with those who have used that fund against the state by arming non-state actors. We must identify them. We must bring them back to book.
I like your optimism.
What do you think will happen? Same question. Relationships here.
Well, as far as the relationship is concerned, the United States of America have their own perception of we African. I'm not talking about Nigeria, because most of the time when you even avail, I look at my Ogadele to say it will be disservice. We have had a lot of this disservice on the part of our leaders. And it takes me back. I was thinking that the last administration, upon the, you know that this developed world will not just give information if they have not interrogated very well. To have come up to say we have 400 sponsors of Boko Haram, and they gave the template of how some of those things were done. We read it, and the federal government then alluded to that fact, and nothing was done till today. Is it that we don't have the record? If the last administration refused to do that, that's why the documents are there. Government is continuum. So, as far as I'm concerned, it won't affect anything as per our relationship to them. They know that we will react this way. As a matter of fact, the US congressman knows that this will be because we are reactive to issue. And if care is not taking, committees will be set up, they will look into it, and the white paper will be generated, and after a while you hear the end of the story and nothing will happen.
Now, if that be the case, you know, we're working on the premise of if now. We're running out of time, but just a little. If that be the case, Nigerians have been affected. All right, Nigerians have lost loved ones with the activities of these insurgents. What should Nigerians do if there is a revelation that truly, one way or another, the United States, through USAID, have been involved, one way or another, in terrorist activities in Nigeria, and the federal government of Nigeria or the political elite decides to paper over it? What should Nigerians do?
There is nothing we can do, if you ask me. What do we want to do to fight the person that is feeding you? The only thing I will tell you is that they will say, okay, if they are the one funding, let's leave where they are funding and go and take solace where they are, so that we stay with them over there. That's my own perception to it. Because these are the people that are actually funding, you allegedly claim are funding terrorism to make here ungovernable for you. And if I have the opportunity, I know that their place is safe. Let me just make, and that's why we are seeing a lot of people saying the place of solace now is to travel out of the country. Since this place is not,
they're deporting us back.
When they deport us back, you still find a way around. You know, a lot of people, if America is deporting you, another country is waiting. One thing you can't take away from Nigeria, and I will continue to say, is our resilience. And in developing a lot of the country,
to run away from developing our own country.
You see, the reason why I will say that a lot of people run is because our leaders is not making that atmosphere conducive for you to actually. There's a system where all of them are going, and we have a lot of people behind the scene that are working. So the government should be intentional in such a way that you can imagine when you hear issues like this being debated in other developed life, how people resign overnight because life are being lost, while how people are actually being punished for some of the things that they're actually doing. Truth be told, we need to work on our system and our value proposition in such a way that we don't celebrate mediocrity, in such a way that we give value for merit and we can move together.
This would be a wonderful place to anchor this conversation, but it's not exactly anchoring because we're still touching on security. Ex-terrorist rehabilitation progress. CDS announces 789 undergoing program, release of hundreds planned. This is basically about those terrorists that surrendered. That's 789 de-radicalized terrorists are undergoing. They've undergone some rehabilitation program, and they will be released very, very shortly. Let's examine this conversation when we come back from this break.
Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging one-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chupuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us.
All right, then welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now let's get into it. The Chief of Defense Staff, CDS, has announced that 391 former terrorists will be reintegrated into their home states in March after completing the Radicalization Rehabilitation and Reintegration Program under Operation Safe Corridor, OPSC. Now, the program aims to rehabilitate and reintegrate former terrorists back into society. Now, the meeting focused on a smooth transition to reintegrate those former combatants. Oh well, the initiative, which began in 2016, has processed about 2,190 people, including foreigners, who will be reintegrated into society. Now, the goal of the meeting is to find the best way to transfer clients from the camp to their state or national authorities after graduation. Oh well, we still have in the studio here Mr. Dele Fanimo, who is a seasoned reporter. We also have Mr. Shosho Okuado, an accountant with so many things about accounting, economic policy, and all of that. Tax analyst, tax specialist, and all of that. We also have virtually Barrister Innocent Eku, who joins us from Port Harcourt. Well, good morning to you, Barrister Innocent. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning.
Very well then, very well. Thanks for coming to us. Now, let's get into it. We are discussing what the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has said, that about 391 repentant Boko Haram terrorists are to be released to society, reintegrated into society, to their home states or whatever, or where they are coming from. What's your reaction to this news, considering that, look, we have been grappling with lots of issues surrounding insecurity. We even have issues with people, repentant Boko Harams, allegedly, who were brought into society and they turned out, not just being integrated into the national security agencies, but these people also turned out to be moles to their compatriots. What's your reaction to this? Do you think it's something we should continue doing? And not just that there are 391, we understand that there are about 798, and more are coming. What's your reaction to all of this, sir?
Yes, I think that policy should be implemented with cautiousness in terms of effective monitoring of these fellows when they have graduated from the de-radicalization orientation. The government should put in place effective
Okay, sorry about that. We seem to be having a network glitch with our guest from Port Harcourt. Now, let's come back to the studio where we still have Dele Fanimo and Shosho Okuado. Shosho, let me come to you on this. The barrister was about saying something that it should be done with caution, you know. I also like you to factor in that these are people who have probably killed Nigerian soldiers, Nigerian policemen, fellow Nigerians in cold blood in the act of terrorism. Do you think that it is a direction we should take in trying to fight Boko Haram insurgents or to fight terrorism as a whole?
I have not been an advocate or a supporter of that particular policy, pardon me. The fact remains that repentance is of the Lord, not human. They have actually dehumanized people, they've killed, they've actually made the government ungovernable, they've killed our economy. I feel the best way to address this issue is just giving justice to them and allow them to conclude it with their creator. It sounds hard, but I think it's the best way to go. Let me tell you this. There is no amount of radicalization or integration that you want to reorientate the mind. I'll give you a small typical example. Somebody who is in the business of prostitution, if you tell you that he has actually repented, if there is an opportunity to take the husband of a fellow woman who is in love with, he has the skill. Don't forget that thing. The orientation that these people have on the basis. Do you know that a lot of things that people learn from their childhood, despite their educational qualification, we should have reoriented their mind, is still what they still act on. I still have a lot of people, despite the huge amount of money and the level of academics they have this orientation that you don't eat meat until after you finish your food, even when you give them 7 meats. Okay. At their age, some of them are over 50. they still do it.
Okay.
So why has not education radicalized their attitude?
Okay.
We are talking about the foundation you have laid. A lot of these people that we are talking of are people that Boko Haram want to themselves at age 10, 12, the formative age. So when you want to give them a new orientation, they are only answering to you.
All right.
But you are not taking care of the fundamental.
Right.
And that's my challenge.
If you put together all of these, like people like you have kicked against it, not just you, Nigerians have kicked against it. Meanwhile, the military, the government keep going in that direction. Does it speak to a form of complicity on the part of government? If you put everything together, something we are hearing about people sponsoring terrorism, and you also say that people, there's no way people in high places will not know about these things. Does it speak to complicity on the part of government?
I can tell you that the military are acting based on the fact that this is a democracy. If it is a military administration, this would not happen. I can tell you. Because I know the military that we have, that they don't waste. You need to see when you have an issue with a military officer, even if it is a gentle one, he knows how to treat someone. Not to now talk of people that are killing their fellow human beings, that they themselves, that are alive today, do not even have guarantee of survival in the hand of these people. But because it's a democratic setting and rules are being set before them, there is nothing they can do. And that's why I put this to say we are actually putting the life of some of these military officers at risk. These people have been on the other side. They know the techniques. They know the language of these fellow people. And you feel that absorbing them back is the best way to go with some of those people out there? I would not. But if the government feels that's the route to go, it will only tell you that we are extending the lifespan of this act of terrorism.
Now, should we be worried? Should we be worried that certain foreigners, certain Nigerians, certain Chadians have, embedded themselves in some of these communities, and they've run with Boko Haram, they've run with Lakurawa and the rest, and at some point they dropped their arms, and now they are part of those that will be reintegrated into society. But these are not originally Nigerians. Should we be worried?
Well, I don't know how they are profiling them. The numbers, the 370 or 700 or something, I don't know how the military are actually profiling those that will actually be reintegrated. And that's why I feel it's more harmful on our path. If they are not just our own citizens alone, but people that have actually integrated from neighboring country to have access into the country. They don't have anything to lose. Before you know it, when they are reintegrated back into the system, you give them that livelihood, you cannot restrain their movement. So if somebody is integrated from the north and he moves to the south, there is no how you can actually curb the person's movement or how it's going to act on it. So that's why for me, it sounds hard. A lot of people have said, oh, no, capital punishment is real. But I feel that these people have actually killed our economy. They've killed our system. They've even put the lives of our gallant officer at risk each time they perpetrate this. So if we are able to have the commitment and we did our investigation right to confirm that one way or the other they've been part of this, either as accomplice or the major actor in the game, then the best way is just to take them off the guard so that you reduce the number. But what we are doing now is that when they get reintegrated, my fear is that they will not go ahead and be sharing the testimony of what they are. They may not go back, but somebody might have interest in their story. I say, oh, so why did you leave? I just choose to, I want to be on this side. I say, okay, no problem. You have come back. But three of us that have heard this, we are going back. These are waiting because you can't know the in-depth of what is in the heart of every man. That's my word.
Unfortunately, we have to let you go. I would have loved you to stay a little longer, because some of those postulations that you just made, there are responses for some of those things, but we'll have to let you go now. So we'll take a little break, a very short breather, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Dele Fanimo, who's with us in the studio, and also Barrister Innocent Oku, who is in Port Harcourt. We will try to re-establish contact with Barrister. But we thank you very much. Olusha Sohokwade, policy and public affairs analyst. Thanks for coming on the program.
Always a pleasure to be with great men on this table. It's a privilege for the small boys.
There he goes again. Let's take this break. We'll be right back.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Permit me to run. Yeah. Prof, we will talk.
All right then. Take care. Yeah, the mic is still there. Okay, okay.
Thank you very much for staying with us. We had to take that one day. But we have Dele Fanimo with us in the building. Now, so we know that some of these individuals who lay their arms, some of them, according to reports by Zagazola publication, we heard that some of them lay down their arms not because they changed ideologies, but because they felt, look, they were being surrounded and they had run out of ammunition. So they basically just dropped their arms and surrendered. And they were taken in, de-radicalized, and now to be reintegrated. How is it possible to de-radicalize an individual who only surrendered because he felt, look, you were going to kill him because he doesn't even have ammunition to defend himself, and then you want to reintegrate that person back into society? What's the sense in it?
I can tell you for free that those who surrendered actually surrendered not because they were overwhelmed. You need to talk to some of these soldiers in the theater of war. They tell you that the level of radicalization that these guys had been taken to is such that when they are caught, they beg soldiers to kill them because they are waiting for virgins in the other side. And most of them are so poor that when they are caught, what you see with them is a loaf of bread and
I beg to disagree with you, because we've done extensive investigation into some of these things. We've read reports, we've watched interviews.
See, I'm telling you about those who engage them.
Now let me tell you
on a daily basis.
Let me put up another scenario, which is an actual scenario, an actual fact of an individual. This time around, a lady who came to say, look, she wishes to go back. Now, she was de-radicalized, empowered, and put back in the society as a tailor. Now, she used to sew when she was in the forest with Boko Haram. And the man she married, one of the insurgents, was a highly placed officer. So she said, look, now that she's in society, she still sews, but she's not getting that much money to take care of her children. Like what she was getting when she was married to this high-ranking officer. So the respect that came with it, the affluence that came with that recognition. And here you have this individual empowered with sewing machines and all, but earning just a little to get by, and desiring to go back to the forest. How would you explain that?
Moses, there are two issues here. We're talking about those caught in the act, and they surrendered, and they're taken back to the society.
No, we're talking about the same thing, because everyone who
desire and interest is the overriding,
because it's not only it's not only the combatants that are being de-radicalized. The women and children that have been part of them are also being de-radicalized. So let's just put that information out.
I'm telling you this because maybe after this conversation off camera, I will put you I put through a call to somebody who was there for about 9 years as a military officer, now retired, who will tell you some of these things firsthand so that you can understand what I'm saying. I won't just come here to just assume and then say things. You understand? You see, some of these people, they have crossed the Rubicon. That even when imminent death comes, they feel happy that they want to die. Those ones that are already made for hell, they feel they want to die. They beg. I know a military officer who says for the rest of his life, he cannot touch meat. That these people, they even beg them so that they won't suffer much pain, that they should fire them in the head.
Okay.
So people like that, how do you radicalize them?
Okay.
But the ones that came, that surrender willingly, are the ones that will still find some level of humanity in them, that at some point, because some of these people, they are perpetually on drugs.
Okay, we are coasting home now. We are running out of time. But let me stay with you. The issue of I understand you have an idea, you have a knowledge of security operations. Now, this is more like a wartime. We are in a war situation.
Sure.
So between the Nigerian military, Nigerian government, and
non-state actors.
Non-state actors. In the process of peace studies, in peace initiatives,
conflict
and peace studies and all of that, operations anyway. Yeah. Is it proper? Do you reintegrate, rehabilitate people in wartime, in the course of war, when the war has not ended?
You see, the process is long. I'm sure that if you go into the details of all this, you will know that some of these people are already taken out.
What do you mean by that? Taken out in terms of what?
That they are not going to be part of this rehabilitation process because they know that they are already
because we're running out of time. Because we're running out of time.
They are already sold to perdition.
Sorry, please. Because we're running out of time. Now, what do you think will be the perception of the community when these people are brought back to the community? When the community members, those that remain in the community, know these people, know that they were attacked by these people, their houses were burnt, their farmlands were burnt by some of these individuals, and here these individuals have been escorted in with military escorts back to the community, asked to live amongst the community. What do you think the perception of the people would be?
I'd like you to merge the two questions because we're actually starting to touch on the other one. So merge the two questions if you can.
In 2 minutes, please.
For me, why would Tutsis and Hutus cohabit after the whole scenario that happened in Rwanda? That's also instructive. The point is, the military, they hire experts that are not within the military to do this job for them. And in the course of doing this, they are not going to neglect the community because they are going back to that community. They will also sensitize them. That is not to say that you will not have pockets of maybe 5, 10 out of these people still going back to where they belong. But the point is, the majority of them that have been trained, that have been radicalized, may still find comfort within that society. And the society also has responsibility to embrace them. Because if they don't embrace them, if they turn them out and ostracize them, the tendency is for them to go back to where they feel the comfort. It's just like a prisoner that comes out and the family says, no, you can't come to this compound. You can't come to this community. He will go back to where he belongs and he will continue to ravage the community. So this is what we are saying. It's going to be an holistic thing. There's no way they would radicalize a person that had turned against the state, and they are now rehabilitating him to the extent that you know that he has a different outlook to life beyond what he espoused when he was younger.
Wouldn't it be better for the military or the government to keep these people in perpetual confinement until the war is over?
Do you know that those guys who end up becoming source of intelligence
for the 30 seconds
for the military?
Can you respond in 30 seconds so we wrap this up because we're out of time?
Yes, those radicalized, they can also be good instruments for government and the military as intelligence feedback.
Okay.
Then the issue of this our USA
yes.
aid,
You said.
anything short of unraveling those behind it is not good for Nigeria. And Nigerians will be watching. And we, as media practitioners, we should keep them on their toes to ensure that we get to the root of this matter. Because it's a whole lot of devastation on the economy, on the social well-being of this country.
All right, then. Thank you very much. We've been speaking with Dele Fanimo, who is a seasoned reporter, public and policy affairs commentator, and VOP analyst. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Well, that's it on the show. I am Moses Humphrey, wishing you a beautiful time. Join us again at 9 o'clock for newspaper review.
And I am Chukwuma Okoro. Bye for now.